Well, there she is, fully put together. I learned quite a few things about it. One thing I was very anxious to know about was how much did it actually weigh. And it came in just under the 17-pound limit. So it was like 16 pounds, 15 ounces. And that's without pedals. So by the time you add in your pedals and some water bottle cages, you're going to be probably closer to the higher 17. But still, that's pretty impressive. I was very excited about it. I did learn a few things putting it together. And I'll share with you a couple of things that I learned. One of the things that I'm embarrassed that I did not understand, but when you get it, you'll find that there's tubes. There's two nylon tubes that come out of where the derailleur cables go. And then they come out at the back side over here, right about there. And I wasn't sure if they were supposed to stay in there or not. But in reality, all it is a temporary guide. So you put your cable through the housing, and then on the back side, you just pull it out here and leave the cable in there. And it doesn't do any damage, I understand, to the internals of the frame. I don't think there's an actual tube for the derailleurs internally in the frame. But then what you do is you just keep this nylon tube, and when you need to change out the derailleur cable, you run this tube back through the entire frame so it pops up on this side, and then you pull your cable out, then you run your cable back through the new cable and pull out your tube. So you got to keep your both tubes aside for future reference. Now, one thing that it didn't have, and I just picked up a couple of these over at the bike shop, REI, was some adjustment barrels, because there is nothing for the front, and then obviously Dura-Race Ridge Railer, you've got one, but it's obviously pretty inaccessible if you're in the middle of a ride and your derailleur stops working ideally. So put these in here. They came out pretty neat. They're actually these come on some of the actually the less expensive road bike shifters, and so you can adjust them on the side of your shifter. And so put those in there, $3. That was a pretty good deal. One thing I did also notice and didn't know exactly how to handle it was the wheel, when I first put it in there, rubbed into the frame. And so I called him, and Ross was real cool. He's like, well, yeah, there were some machined spacers, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And I said, I do remember seeing something, and that's what it was. It was this little piece right here, if it'll focus in here, that basically you've got a little spacer here and a bigger spacer there. And what you do is you just put it on your axle. So I've yanked this one off, but you pull off your skewer, and you just slip this over the axle, and then when you put it in this horizontal dropout, it's either going to be holding it back a little bit, or you spin it over and it holds it back a lot, and you've got one on both sides. So for me, with the stock tire, with the Michelin Pros, the Comp Pro 4s, or just the Pro 4s, it worked just fine. Whereas when I went with these this is my training tire, the Grand Prix for my trainer, this actually needed the full, or the larger of the two. And let's see what else. Oh, on the shifters, one thing you may know on your road bike is when you shift the front on the derailleur, you get a little bit of a trim. As you're in the big chainring, you can click it and get half a click. So when you start moving up into the back and it starts rubbing on the front derailleur back and knees, obviously you don't go big to big, small to small, but nevertheless, if you get up to the 7, 8, or 9 and it rubs, you can get half a click to stop to stop the rubbing. But on this, there isn't. On this Metron shifter, there isn't a half a click. You get a half a click on the upside, though, meaning on the small chain ring, you can get a little rub on when it's coming all the way to the small, or on the smaller side, you'll get rub, so you get a half a click there. But anyways, it's kind of tight, hence the reason I had to put these adjusters on here, was because it's real tight. You got to have it very, very fine-tuned for it not to rub, and get access to 7, 8, 9 of your rear on the small, and then the opposite 9, or the other 9 sprockets on your big chainring. One thing I noticed a lot of people complain about was on these Metron shifters, how this cap actually comes off and loosens up while you're riding. And what it is there's these little caps, these little rubber caps that just go in. Let's see where I am. They just go in like that. I'm just not getting a whole lot of focus on this iPad. But anyways, if you pull this out, it just pulls right out. And then you put, I think it's like a 2mm wrench. You could just take an Allen wrench, unscrew the nut that's in there, or the bolt, and this comes off. And you can tighten it up. Or it's really easy to get the cable out. If you pull this off, it's a lot easier to get the cable out than if you try to leave that in and pull it by pulling the lever down. So that was a couple of things that I noticed on those Metron shifters. I've only actually ridden so far on the trainer, but they're pretty nice. I ride a 56 typically on my road bike. This is a medium. I'm just under 5'10", and I wear a 32-inch inseam. And being a medium, it's almost too big for me. They mentioned I might need a small, and I was like, I don't ride a small on anything, but in all honesty, I have to push my seat all the way forward on the middle. In fact, I had it on the front. On this seat post, there's a hole here, and then a hole back here. So you take this bolt, it's a 13mm wrench, you have to undo the bolt, and then you can slide it forward and put it into this hole. So I actually had it all the way there, but then I had to slide the seat all the way back. So I had to move these armrests all the way back to be able to fit my, I guess, normally proportioned body. If you've got a really long torso, then the medium might fit you great. If you've got a short torso, and this medium would probably be way too big for you. But anyways, so like I said, 16 pounds, 15 ounces, and it all went together really nicely. So that's about it. Well worth my money. I'm happy.